Hello everyone, welcome back. As always, remember that when we're in the kitchen, you need a parent supervising you at all times. So we're gonna get straight back into the recipe. Remember that we are multiplying our entire recipe by 1/2. So last time what we did was we multiplied all the fractions by 1/2, and those were proper fractions. Now we're going to be multiplying the numbers that are bigger than 1. So those we call mixed numbers. If you have 1 and 1/2, that's called a mixed number, where you have a number and then a fraction together. But you can also rewrite these as something called improper fractions. My recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that by 1/2. So we can separate those into 1 plus 1/2, and then we can turn 1 into 1 over 1, and 1/2 is 1 over 2. So we've already gone over how to multiply two fractions together. You take the numbers on the top and multiply them, and then you put them over the numbers on the bottom multiplied. But that is not how you add fractions. You can't just take the numbers on the top and add them together and take the numbers on the bottom and add them together. Instead, you have to rewrite one or both of the fractions so that they have the same denominator. The denominator is the number on the bottom. So in this case, we're going to rewrite 1 over 1 so that it has a 2 on the bottom. Hopefully you remember that any number divided by itself is 1, and any number multiplied by 1 is the same as the original number. So what we can do is multiply 1 over 1 by 2 over 2. This way we'll have a 2 on the bottom, and we're going to have a 2 on the top as well. 2 over 2 is the same as 1 over 1, so we haven't changed the equation at all. But we've made it so that our two fractions have the same denominators, and now we're ready to add them together. Now that they have the same denominator, which is the number on the bottom, we can simply add the two numbers on top to get our new numerator, which is the number that will go on the top of our final answer. So 1 plus 2 equals 3. And then on the bottom, we're going to keep the same number as we have in both of our other fractions. So we're going to end up with 3 over 2. So 3 over 2, or 3/2, is going to be more than 1. Hopefully it's going to be equal to our original mixed number, 1 and 1/2. Let's double check. Here we have 3/2, 1, 2, 3. And on the other side, we have 1 plus 1/2. Do they look the same? Yeah, they are the exact same amount. So we know that we did this calculation correctly. But we're still not done. We still need to multiply it by 1/2. But luckily, we already know how to multiply two fractions, and it's no different for an improper fraction than it was for the proper fractions. We're going to take that numerator, 3, and we're going to multiply it by 1 in the 1/2. Then we're going to take the two 2's on the bottom, we're going to multiply them together, and we're going to end up with 3/4. So we're going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder to our recipe. Now we've got one more very important ingredient. I'm sure no one forgot it. We need to add our sugar. We need 1 1/4 cups of sugar. Again, that's a mixed number, so we're going to think about it a little differently this time. Again, 1 1/4 is the same as 1 plus 1/4. Let's draw that out. We've got 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, so we can see that 1 is equal to 4/4. But what about that last fourth? We're going to add that in. We're going to count that. So now how many fourths have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5/4. Okay, so 1 1/4 is the same as 5/4. That is so much easier than doing all that math, just writing it out and visualizing it. Now we're good at this by now. We're going to multiply our fraction by 1/2. Go ahead and pause and try this by yourself. Just a reminder, we're going to multiply the two top numbers together, and then we're going to multiply the two bottom numbers together. 5 times 1 is 5. 4 times 2 is 8. So we get 5/8 cups of sugar to add to our recipe. I'm going to give you one last way to think about multiplying mixed numbers by fractions. I'm going to split up the mixed number into the 1 and into the 2/3. I'm going to multiply each one by 1/2, and then I'm going to add them back together in the middle. 1 times 1/2 is just 1/2, and then 2/3 times 1/2 is just 1/3. I rewrite each of those numbers so that they have the same denominator. Again, that's the number on the bottom, so that I can add them together and get my final answer, 5/6 cups of flour. So now you can see we've got our perfect half recipe of cookies.